good? Great. Yeah, thanks Lee, and thanks to the Live Well team. They are so amazing at putting on events, so thank you for today. And thank you to each and every single one of you. You're obviously super committed to health and wellbeing coming out on this gorgeous Sunday morning. So as you heard, I'm Sophie Clyde-Smith, and I'm a transformational life and career coach. And the intention behind all of my coaching is to improve people's well-being through helping them build a fulfilling career. And this is the reason why I'm here today, and this subject is extremely close to my heart. And that subject is, as you heard, making a 360 approach to wellbeing work in the real world. And we're going to hear all about what the real world is from our amazing panelists. So just a quick run through, we do have 45 minutes in total for the talk, and that includes about 35 minutes for the panel questions, and then we're going to be throwing it out to all of you guys for about 15 minutes of audience Q&A. So get thinking about your questions, don't be afraid to ask. There's always one person who has to go first, but we really want to hear from you, so please get thinking. So there's never been more pressure to be well, but trying to be well can be a stressful process in the real world. It's like a normal person, you have a job, a commute, family, and a generally really hectic lifestyle, especially here in London. So combined with the confusion of what being well actually looks like, this can all too often feel like an uphill struggle, but it doesn't have to be. Our panel is looking forward to sharing what a holistic approach to well-being really looks like in today's time-poor world, and how we can accomplish it in a sustainable and achievable way. This panel has been carefully curated, and we have experts representing yoga, meditation, fitness, nutrition, and psychological therapy. Our intention is that you will learn to invest in your overall health to achieve a truly healthier lifestyle and a balanced view. So the perfect place for us to kickstart is a question to all of the panel, and maybe Niraj, you can go first. Should have warned you about that. So what, in your opinion and your experience, is a 360 holistic approach to well-being?
Thank you, Sophie, and thank you everyone for being here. So I think one of the fundamental things that we look at Mind and Not Mind Startup, which is all about mental well-being, is the fact that we basically live in a very, very busy world. There's so much stuff going on in our lives, in our careers, in our family lives, in all the things that we can do. So from a personal point of view, I just like to keep it simple. And what that actually means in terms of having a holistic view around health and well-being is there's some absolute fundamentals around nutrition, movement, sleep, and then the layer that goes above all of that, which is what we do with our mind and how we think and how we train our minds. So for me personally, it's really, really important to be doing something in each of those areas instead of being really, really, really strong at one to the neglect of the others. And I'm sure that on the panel we're going to touch on this theme a lot, but the most important thing for me is not beating myself up about trying to be perfect in everything, but really just sort of being consistent across those 4 different things.
Strong, good start. Thanks so much. And Dave, do you want to go next?
Thank you, Sophie, and good morning, everyone. So it's interesting coming from the exercise side of things. I was actually talking to Sophie earlier. We do a talk called "Building the Executive Athlete" that we take to Corpus, which is quite a grandiose title. But the idea is it borrows from the things we learned, me and my business partner Ben, in professional sport, both playing and coaching, and what we can apply some of those lessons to the general population. And a part of that is we always start with something we call the performance pyramid, which basically has 4 layers. And this is always one of those, in the talks, always when we do the slightly awkward audience participation bit, where I ask people to give me their, I won't do that, but I might ask the panel, actually. So if I give you a little bit of a tip or a clue, we rate these things. We have exercise, smart nutrition, quality sleep, and stress management. And I'll be genuinely interested, what do you think is the most important out of those 4?
Sleep.
Sleep? I'll take it. Stress management. Okay. And what do you guys think the least important is? For overall wellness? See, that's kind of cheating as a comment. But it's really interesting because obviously people come at this from different perspectives anyway, but it's good to see we're all sort of in the same areas. It's almost like these lot are experts. But basically, we put stress management as the most foundational area.
Well done, Kimberly. Points.
And then sleep, then nutrition, and then exercise. So basically, I just put myself out of the job. But there's a reason we do that, because at the end of the day, if you hammer yourself, and I'm sure, who here does HIIT training? Okay, so a reasonable amount. Who here does it more than 3 times a week? Okay? Who here's quite tired? But basically the point is, if you're not getting quality sleep, if you're not eating properly, if you've got a ton of stress on you as well, the last thing you need to do is put yourself into an exercise hole 7 days a week. So it's all about making sure, like you said, every single one of those steps is absolutely critical, but also understanding kind of priority. Like exercise is absolutely brilliant if we've got all the other sort of foundational aspects looked after first. So that would be my first kind of comment on exercise in this area. Exercise is also, though, very important for overall wellness. I mean, everybody here probably knows all of the benefits. We've obviously already touched on mental health. There's a caveat to all of those, though. So exercise can help with anxiety and depression. Caveat, if we're sleeping well, if we're eating well. Exercise can help with bone density. Again, if you've got good nutrition, if you're safe and smart about your exercise. Exercise can help with blood sugar management and body composition. Once again, if your nutrition is right, if your cortisol levels are well managed. Exercise can make you look good naked. I'm probably the cabinet. So, you know, exercise is absolutely essential. I've got quite an unusual sort of background to fitness. I've actually got a philosophy degree, which, when all those philosophy factories finally open, I'll be the first one in line. But until then, what I actually try and do is borrow from the lessons, the critical thinking, sort of apply it to my job in fitness and as a business owner. And there's a really interesting tenet of philosophy called dualism, which some people may have not heard of. The idea is, I mean, you can probably, like René Descartes was probably the first person who sort of popularised this, but it's the whole concept of like a ghost in the shell, so that our minds and our bodies are separate entities. And the reality is, the scientific consensus is that that's just not true. But unfortunately, we're all hardwired to still naturally be dualists. So this morning, I dragged my body out of bed. You know, what did the dragging? My mind. What did it drag? My tired old chassis. So we naturally tend to think of these things as separate, but the reality is they're totally connected. Like how you think and feel absolutely affects every other physical process in your body, and vice versa. And the problem is, even just knowing it doesn't actually make it any easier. We still inherit it even in our language. You know, we talk about the body and mind as separate. But at least being aware of it, we can make some changes. Because if not, if you naturally think dualistically, it's been shown in studies, it's actually quite an unhealthy way of thinking. You know, because we tend to, if we have depression, we tend to look for the solution in the mind. Automatically, if we've got a broken leg, we don't really think about the other importance of positive thinking and all the rest of it. So I guess that's quite a long-winded kind of answer to that, but you know, exercise is actually a very small part of, I guess, what I do, but whilst it's integral, I think actually all these other aspects are probably equally as important.
Yeah, amazing, bringing in that holistic approach. I'm impressed you brought philosophy into this. That was nicely done. Kimberly, in your opinion, what is a 360 holistic approach to well-being?
Good morning, everybody. I would, kind of adding on to the comments, think about 2 factors: personalisation and self-possession. So personalisation is just the idea that there is no one size fits all. There is no one perfect morning routine which is going to be right for everybody. If you're not a morning person, a morning routine is just wrong for you anyway. And I think we need to get away from this idea of a kind of out-of-the-box kit for wellness for every single person, irrespective of your gender, of your work, of your family status, of your economic status, of your genetics, of, you know, it just doesn't make sense. So I think that we need to have a much clearer idea that what's right for you is legitimately very, very personal, and you should take the time to try to work out what that is. And I link that to an idea that I talk about a lot in therapy, which is self-possession. And that's the idea that you belong to yourself. You know, there's nobody else out there who can say, you ought to look like this, you should be doing this, it would be better if, because that's nothing, what you do is nobody else's business. And what other people think of you is none of your business. And so helping people to get a strong sense that you are in charge of yourself, you are the expert in you, you can take advice, but the way that you utilize that and integrate that into your life is the most important thing. So for me, with all of the realms of wellness, so whether that's nutrition or psychology and all of that stuff, it will be about how it fits personally into your life in a way that makes you feel as if you have the ownership over this plan and this idea.
Thanks, India. And David, last but not least, that introductory question, your opinion on a 360 approach to building.
Yeah, I think probably a really nice summed up version of all that our fellow panelists have talked about. I think about in terms of especially exercise, I think of wellness without labels. Sometimes we're very quick to label ourselves into like, I'm a runner so I don't stretch, or I'm a yogi so I don't run. And how is it that we can take off that? And beyond this idea of exercise as well, sometimes we are very keen to also box ourselves because it's easy to do that. It's very objective to kind of go, okay, you know what, yeah, I'm the introvert, so this is the only thing that fits me. But we have to kind of acknowledge, as Kimberly said about personalizing, we are also constantly changing over time. So what may fit us right now may not fit us next year or maybe even tomorrow. So how is it that we can navigate through intuition? I also think wellness is something that is across scales and about managing relationships, and we also like to kind of, I think Dave has briefly touched about this, how we look into one specific thing, like, oh, I have issues with my knee, so let's look into that. But can we think less on like these isolated parts, but think of how they relate to the whole? So the way I like to set up my framework is the way I relate to myself, the way I relate to others, and the way I relate to the surroundings, just as a kind of holistic way of looking at wellness. I'll just keep it as that.
Wow, what an amazing start. I'm like trying to take notes in my head. And Kimberly, we'll go back to you for the next question. In your opinion, what are some of the most damaging myths that you've come across on the subject of achieving holistic health? And how do you help people to avoid or manage these misplaced beliefs?
I guess I'll take examples from clinic, and does that make sense? Because the only reason I'm here is because I got really angry in therapy. Because most of the time psychologists were very anonymous, we sit very quietly in our own consulting rooms, we talk to one person at a time, and that's how we like to live. But because a lot of my work sits at the overlap between food and psychology, so eating disorders, disordered eating, and our psychological relationships with food, which is something that people just ignore quite a lot. I started seeing a lot of people who were very anxious about food and about eating, and that this anxiety was being driven and reinforced by a lot of stuff that they were reading on social media. And that was one of the reasons that I kind of got a lot more serious on Instagram. Instead of just posting pictures of my lunch, started posting psychological research. And so I think some of the most dangerous myths, again, is this idea that there's one healthy diet. We should all be whatever it is, vegan or paleo or keto or whatever, as if your genetics, your culture, your family, your history of food, the way that you eat, your microbiome has nothing to do with nutrition or kind of the ways that we consume food. So the idea that there is one perfect way of doing it, and if you're not doing it that way, you're getting it wrong and you're failing and you suck and you should try harder, I think is hugely, hugely damaging. It's very pernicious, and you get this kind of anxious, fretful person that walks into the room saying, well, you know, literally I have people who are working at big media companies, doing great jobs, their work is literally visible on billboards, and they're saying, yeah, but I didn't go to yoga this morning and I didn't have a smoothie and I haven't got a dog yet. And it's just this kind of mad idea that this was what healthy looked like. So I think we need to be very, very careful about creating an idealized version of health. I think we need to be very, very careful about disassociating that from the environment. So the idea that someone who's living on benefits or, you know, has a 0 hours contract should also be going to these expensive boot camp classes, or should be eating these foods, or should be cooking from scratch, can be very alienating and exclusionary. And I think the way that I try to address that again is to come back. When people say, and they come into my clinic and they say, oh yeah, but I should be half a stone lighter, I'm always asking these questions about who's making these rules. Like, what are these shoulds? Where do they come from? When did you sign up for this? Like, when was this contract made between you and society to say that this is what you should look like? And again, helping people to come back to that place of self-possession. Who made these rules? When did you sign up? When are you going to tell people to sit down and be quiet and decide for yourself how you want to live?
I think the word should needs to be removed from the topic of wellness. Dave, let's head over to you. You've been very vocal about the correlation between physical exercise and emotional health. With this in mind, what part do you think exercise has to play in overall health?
Basically repeat my answer to the last question. What role does exercise have in emotional health? So, take it back to the performance pyramid that we discussed earlier. Movement is probably more important than exercise, and I'm sure we may get onto that later. But I'm a big believer that stagnation, like physical stagnation, can lead to sort of mental stagnation, and I think it doesn't really matter that everybody's just touched on it here already, so I think it's just raised. Personalisation, David's talked about. Also, looking at these things from every different angle. I don't really care how people move. I don't really care what they do. Obviously, it's going to be slightly dependent on your goals. There's no point saying I want to be a 20-stone bodybuilder if you don't want to lift weights. But similarly, you're not going to get mobile and flexible if you don't add some kind of whether it's yoga or Pilates or some kind of stretching into your routine as well. The main thing about movement and enjoyment, which is probably what we're really getting down to there from a mental health perspective, is just making sure it is something you naturally enjoy. Again, like, it doesn't have to be painful exercise, both physical and emotional. Like, you don't have to feel like, a masochist when you go to the gym. You don't have to do anything at all. So if you just enjoy walking, walk. It's really that simple. If you enjoy stretching, do it. If there are, let's say, unfortunately, if you for health reasons or whatever, you do need to drop some body fat, then yeah, you probably will need to look at your diet. You probably will need to reduce your calorie intake. You probably may need to build up some muscle mass. If you have, we talked earlier about postural problems and bone density, and that may involve doing some exercises that wouldn't be your first choice. But at the end of the day, any exercise, just like with any healthy nutritional approach, like, you have to enjoy these things, otherwise you're just not going to do them. And ultimately, I would say that's the most important factor of anything. And it feels like a bit of a cop-out, not to give any specific answers, but it's the same kind of thing, it's just so subjective.
No, I think that can really resonate with a lot of people, so it's just keeping it simple if that's what's being called for. Okay, Niraj, your no-nonsense, evidence-based approach to wellness is a refreshing and needed voice in the industry. What can you share with us about the many proven holistic benefits that meditation leads to?
Sure. So let me start with this. Meditation is not the answer to everything, and I think sometimes it gets painted that way. Now I'm going to go off on a very slight tangent. I want to share where I came to meditation from, because that will help explain how I and we at my company look at this whole space, and that will tie into exactly the question Shetsu was asking. So my starting point, why I even got into meditation, fundamentally, was because I just couldn't sleep. I had some really, really bad insomnia, and up until that point, I had been sleeping really well. And the other important thing because a few years before that point, I had had a very serious brain injury. I unfortunately had a stroke at the age of 30, and it was... No, wait. We should get into that.
Wow.
No.
So you heard that Dave also had a stroke. My goodness. Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd love to hear more about your story either here or some other time, but I mean, you know, what I can say, and this is probably echoed by David, is that I'm extremely lucky to be here full stop, but what that incident did, it forced me to start becoming obsessed. It took an interest in health to an obsession about health, so I became obsessed about well-being and about, you know, sort of really minimising the chances of these things happening again, and also about neuroscience and about brain function and what happens up here. So that basically took me into yoga. So I had a very advanced neurologist who insisted that I had to do yoga until I physically recovered. So I had some childhood practice as a kid because I'm of Indian origin. So yoga became a regular thing for me, and I started dabbling in meditation, and I recovered, and I started my first business, and that was all going pretty well until it got really super stressful about a couple of years in, and that's when insomnia hit, and that's when I couldn't sleep anymore, and I was pretty desperate after a couple of weeks, and that was the point where a very good friend said, well, why don't you just come into meditation instead of dabbling in it? And so I was ready to try anything, so I did, and that first day my sleep improved a little bit, the next day improved a bit more, and then a few days later it had gone. So this is where I'm getting to the point a little bit. After that, I started looking at meditation, and you know, I came to it from a very practical point of view. It wasn't about consciousness or spirituality or about anything like that. It was, I need to fix my sleep. After that, I started thinking, well, what else can this set of practices do for me? But I'm also pretty pragmatic and pretty skeptical, especially about all of the wellness claims out there. So I didn't just start going deeper into meditation. I started looking for all of the evidence and started looking for what's actually been done in this space from a clinical point of view, from a study point of view. And what I found was amazing, which was that there's so much strong evidence about the relationship between meditation and stress management, meditation and focus, even meditation and creativity. The problem is that these messages get very, very mixed, and we see all sorts of claims. My least favourite 3 words in the wellness industry are studies have shown, or science says, because every single time I see that, it's usually well-intentioned, but so few people are actually looking at what's behind these studies, where were they done, where was it published, who did it, what was the control group, etc., etc. The shame with that is that so many of the things that my fellow panelists are talking about, it's a lot of this stuff is beyond proven, but then it just gets muddied by other things. So when it comes back to meditation and the evidence base around it, I'd say fundamentally, we have this image that meditation is all about peace and calm, and that can absolutely happen, but the main benefits of meditative practices, which we'll get into later in this talk, and we'll have a bit of an experience a bit later, are like fundamental stress and anxiety management, so some of the stuff that Dave was talking about. I think it can definitely help sleep, although I would say for sleep there's probably 3 or 4 things that are more effective to do before we start looking at meditation and mindfulness. And then in today's crazy world, focus and attention. I think those are the main ones.
Great, thank you, Raj. David, where does yoga fit into this conversation? And also, we would love to hear more about the benefits of doing it less seriously, which is a message that you advocate.
Yes. So I started going to yoga very firstly when I was still back in Malaysia, and so a little bit of context, I'm the baby of the family. I have 3 older brothers, and they are a lot older than I am. And so when I was kind of spending kind of like the high school days, my mom's basically my best friend. She brings me everywhere, like borderline PA, like, you know, back in Malaysia, it was just like, she does every single thing. And so when I knew, it's kind of a trend back in Malaysia that, oh, if you can afford to study overseas, you do that. And so when I knew that I'm coming to the UK to further my study, my first question was, oh my gosh, what's my mom going to do? I'm really going to miss her. And I also don't know what she's going to do when I leave, because so much of her time is spent with me as well. And so I thought, like, just so coincidentally, there was a massive billboard outside of my home with this dude doing, I don't know what yoga posture it was anymore, but I was just like, okay, I can do it with my mom. So I just, thought, can we go practice yoga together? That was like half a year before I had to leave. And so it became something I looked forward to, and we just kept practicing. And even when I left, it's something we talked about over Skype every week, just going like, how's your yoga practice going? It's just something that keeps us together, and I felt that has really inspired how I teach yoga, which is, again, to honor connection, not just with yourself but with others, more so than whatever it is that we do on the mat. And then I got into yoga a little bit more seriously when I started pursuing dance, and I was not trained in dance from a young age. My background is actually in architecture when I came into study, and then I moved into dance out of again, chance by being tricked by my good friend that we're going to go into a workout session. It was a dance class. But I loved it, and so I thought, I'm going to pursue this, give myself a gap year. And when I realized I really wanted to pursue dance professionally, my teacher actually told me that, look, you need to do something like Pilates or yoga to lengthen your muscles, because you're at a point where you gym so much that you actually will injure yourself. It's not even aesthetic anymore, but you'll injure yourself. So I went much deeper into yoga and certified to become a teacher since then. And what I've learned is what yoga really gives. So my question is, it allows me to practice presence and intuition. So like we've talked about again, this idea of us needing to pigeonhole ourselves, needing clear answers when we know there's no clear answers, but it's just something that's comforting. And the practice of yoga allows you to give time for yourself, to sit with yourself, to know that, okay, what do I really need? Sometimes we don't know because there's too many things out there, and too many things that's also language to a place where you feel like you should, or you need to. But in the end, you know best. And I've learned this the hard way in dance training as well, because which I really have to guarantee, with you all taking the effort to come here on a Sunday morning, you probably have the same syndrome as me, which is the diligent student syndrome. But too good. We're so keen on like, what is well-being? What is wellness? So every time in ballet class, my ballet teacher would be like, tuck your tailbone, tuck your tailbone. And I'm like, oh, I got to do that, I got to do that. So I kept tucking my tailbone to a point where I'm permanently tucked. That makes sense. And then I stopped considering what she's actually trying to say. And as a teacher in a general class, teachers usually try to offer, cues that affect the majority of the room. So what if you're the minority and you're the one who has been tucking your tailbone, and mine is here going, oh, tuck my tailbone, I'm going to do that. Does it make sense? So what yoga really helps me is when it is pitched in a nurturing way, in a nurturing environment, with a nurturing approach from the teachers, you are then empowered to really think for yourself, what do you need? Is it stillness that you need? Is it movement that you need today? Do you want to take it up a notch and make it a dynamic class? Do you want this to be a restorative class? All for you to decide. And that there's no, like what I like about yoga as well is it's non-binary, there's no like right way, there's no wrong ways. I mean, there are traditional styles that kind of offer like a, you've got to do this way, and that's one way, and I wouldn't say that that's wrong. Maybe sometimes you need structure, and you'll see later when I share my yoga kind of session with you all later today, but my style is a little bit more free flow just because that's what I believe in. But when I practice, I actually go to the traditional ones because I feel like that's what I need. That's where I lack awareness, because I'm so free flow. If I were to go to someone who offers a free flow thing, I'm going to end up in monks. So I need someone to ground me. So when I practice, I go to someone who's a little bit more strict, who tells me what to do, so I'm like, okay, I'm back to the traditions, so that when I come out, I feel balanced, because I'm not kind of feeding myself what I like in some sense. I'm feeding myself where I lack most awareness in. And in terms of play, which brings it back to this, in hindsight, I would have thought when I spent time with my mom, that's some sort of a playtime. I look forward to yoga. Even in the beginning, it was hell. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm really struggling. But it became something I look forward to because I'm doing it with my mom. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get to spend time with my mom again. And so I like to think of my yoga sessions as kind of this idea of you walking in the park and you having an ice cream. That's the sensation I would love to share with you when I share my classes, and not an interview. We're not coming into a class to tick boxes. Sometimes we cut Like, and I mean, I was there, you know, like the first few years of my yoga practice, I'm like, I have to do a handstand. If I didn't do a handstand in this class, I've just done a crappy practice. Where's that coming from? And so when you take things more seriously and you see things more as play, then you focus more on the means, the process, than the product. Because if you think about it commercially, it's very easy for us to sell yoga in postures. They're measurable. You could see that, okay, in my splits, my legs are a little bit bent. Now I've got really straight legs. Well, no, not really. But you can't really talk about the ambiguous and the intangible. So they kind of go into that. But historically, if you look into asana, which is a posture that you do in yoga, what it's there to serve is for us to condition our body to be ready for a seat of meditation, which can be understood metaphorically, for the seat of meditation. That's all it says. It never said that you have to do a triangle to be able to meditate. None of that. And if it serves your body to kind of just be able to sit comfortably without being in the cheap splits, that's also fine. And research has shown. And this one, again, I always take things like with a pinch of salt. It may be accurate, it may be inaccurate, but what it does is it provokes food for thought. And this Dr. Karen Purvis, she did the research where on play basically, and if you do, like, if you repeat a movement or something for, I think, 200 to 300 times, you would then allow that to become something familiar in the body. Yeah, you would create a new neural pathway for your brain to have established a connection. But if you do that through play, you only need to do it for 15 to 20 times. Yeah, and this is, again, common sense. Really, regardless of whether or not this research is true, if you think back when you were a kid, and when you were studying your favorite subjects, quite easily, I can guarantee you score a little bit better than things that you don't really look forward to. That's the same thing. If everything becomes a chore, lose it. Like, do something else that excites you. And then, in the end, like I said, everything changes. So if today you feel like, oh, I'm kind of bored, this doesn't serve me, don't do it, do something else.
Wow, I can't wait to have your yoga class. Me too. You kind of want to be your mom as well.
She's really adorable.
Kimberly, you have a really rich and varied career history, and you've worked with an incredibly varied subset of individuals. With your insight into such a broad spectrum of people from all backgrounds, what can you share with us about holistic well-being in the real world?
Okay, so context for that, I used to work in prisons for a few years. I ran a therapy service in what was then Europe's largest women's prison, and did some work across the way at the brother prison, which is Pentonville. And then left, and now I work pretty much like I work in Harley Street, so it's a different clientele.
Just as many crooks.
And I like to contextualise my clinical practice there, because I think one of the things that I could talk about prison work for a very, very long time, and I'll try to hold it in. But so much of what I learned there was the idea almost of, but for the grace of God go I. There were very few things, only one or two turns in the road that can shift someone's fortunes. And you have to have a kind of humility to understand that we're not all here because we're special and magic. Some of us are here because we got lucky. And so I think I try to take that sense of humility with me in my work, and that's about understanding that when it comes down to it, we're all just kind of little kids looking for care and affection and to be understood and to be loved, really. And whether you're a CEO of a business or whether you're, just in prison and kind of trying to get off drugs, we all have the same fundamental psychological and emotional needs. And we need to understand that humility is what is needed to hold us and to ground us and to stop us being egomaniacs, and to make us understand that we all rely on one another. I talk about self-possession, but I talk a lot also about the idea that there's no such thing as a self-made person. We all rely on other people for our well-being, to support us, to buy our products, to pay for our services, whatever it might be. And so, what was the question again?
What is holistic wellbeing in the real world?
So I think in the real world, what we're really talking about is staying connected. I think David's absolutely right, to yourself and to others. I think understanding that all of this is quite temporary, and so you need to focus on what's good for you, on feeling well, on feeling happy, on not ticking boxes so much, but finding a fundamental sense of meaning and purpose. We don't talk about meaning and purpose anywhere near enough. We talk about achievements and success, but nobody's really sitting and stopping and thinking about what success actually looks like for me as an individual. And often that's linked with meaning and purpose, and all of those things are deeply, deeply individual and personal. And so I think in the real world, you have to find a balance of taking yourself more seriously, but not taking yourself too seriously. Being able to play, being able to find purpose, find meaning, and as much as you can, understand that we're all kind of in this together.
Amazing. I'd so resonate with the meaning and purpose as a careers coach. That's definitely an area that I think is absolutely imperative for well-being. So thank you for raising that. Okay, so just before we give the audience, you guys, a chance to ask your questions, we are going to have just some top tips from each of the panelists. But get thinking about your questions. Don't be scared. Somebody's got to go first, so get your questions ready, okay? So the final question is probably going to be a little bit of a summary and a sort of top tips of what you each individually can share with the audience about holistic well-being. So, Dave, you're up.
Okay. I will take a little bit more of a practical angle to this then, because I'm sure a lot of people will actually like some advice on where you can apply specific sort of exercise principles and stuff to achieve your goals. So the first thing to stress, because it's been brilliantly articulated today and hammered home, is how subjective this is. So there's at least 100 people here. I could easily give 100 different exercise prescriptions and workouts to suit you all. Also, to be fair, I'm a middle-class white male of British cultural descent, so everybody listens to me anyway. Looking around the diversity of the panel makes you realise really quite succinctly how different our approach needs to be for individuals because of that. Like, we all come to this from different perspectives. And actually, I think massive congratulations to Lidwell for making sure this is such a diverse panel as well. Yeah, I'll give it a round. So that was the preamble. The first thing that I would say for wellness, and I've already commented on this earlier, is about movement, both from an enjoyment perspective and also from the health perspective, and I mean that non-dualistically, so mentally and physically. There's something called NEAT, which is basically non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I'm fairly sure it's one of those acronyms someone just forced that together just so they could use headlines like, hey, neat ways to exercise. But basically, what NEAT means is all the activity you do that isn't exercise, okay? So the big problem that I find when we do consultations and so on, people talk about how much exercise they do. They include things like walking. Now, I love walking, and it's absolutely brilliant, and we should all do it all the time. We shouldn't really be including it in our exercise when we're sort of trying to work out things like calorie management. We should just be doing that anyway. So activity, and studies have shown, but it is fairly, most of you would have seen those studies that show you the difference between taking the steps or the escalators over a year, the amount of difference that makes. And I don't want to just keep banging on about calories, they're not a dirty word, but from every other perspective. So movement is brilliant, whether you want to be grounded, whether you want to be more in tune with yourself, whether you want to be able to be more meditative and more mindful of our activities and what we do. You have to be very aware of your body, your proprioception, so how your body moves in space and in the environment around you. And the more we can move, the better. So that would be my number one tip, and that's not exercise specific, it's about activities, whether that's yoga, whether it's Pilates, whether it's meditation, whether it's just walking. Do as much of that as you can, first of all. Secondly, we're all pretty time poor, so if I had to give some sort of generic exercise take-home tips to get the best bang for your buck with the very short amount of time we all have here, it would be to include a mixture of every fitness component. Okay, so some resistance training, some cardiovascular training, some mobility training. There are lots of different fitness components, but let's just stick to those three because it kind of encompasses most things. When you train, try and include a bit of all of those, which is actually why boot camps have become so popular, because you're generally doing whole body resistance-based movements in a circuit fashion with a cardiovascular element, with a bit of a cool down and stretch at the end. And so it sort of ticks a lot of those boxes. Also, if you can, and again, this all depends on our background and finances and so on, but I think if you can do some group training, I think it has a huge amount of benefits. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to pay for a class. You can just get some friends together, go to the park, go for a jog, do some push-ups. It's the same kind of thing, but the social benefits of group X are very strongly, I won't say they're proven, but there is an awful lot of correlative sort of data to show how beneficial it is, both mentally and physically.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Dave. Okay, other panelists, I'm going to challenge you to keep it under 1 minute so we don't dig in too much to the audience Q&A. So, Niraj, you're up next.
So, if we're talking about sort of top tips of how to have more well-being in our life, how to feel better. I think we all know that we should eat more vegetables, get good protein sources, eat good sources of fat. We all know that we should probably move a little bit more. We all have heard, especially in a room like this, that meditative practices are probably good for us. Look, knowing is not the issue. It's just very, very easy to get overwhelmed by all of these different things, all of these fancy diets, all of these different training methods, all of these different, in my world, all of the different meditative practices. So I think what I really want to share is that fundamentally we all know what we need, and it's just very easy to get overwhelmed. So I would say just keep it simple, pick one thing, you know what that's going to be, and get started with that in a small way. And this is how habits start layering on top of each other. And there is an incredible book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't read it or listened to it, make that a priority. And it really goes into how change actually happens, how behavioural change happens.
The writer.
James Clear, Atomic Habits. And he only wrote it, he published it a couple of years ago, so it's like super current as well. It's great to take in all of the information, but an ounce of action is worth a ton of theory.
We will love a book recommendation. Thank you, Niraj. Okay, David, up to you.
So practically, organize a play date for yourself. One thing you look forward to every week. One thing. And that could be anything. It doesn't have to be fitness, movement, whatever, but something you look forward to that you think can bring you fun. I'll keep it subjective. And another thing I want to share is just a quote, that everything is made up. So make your own things up and see what fits you.
Love that. Amazing. Thank you. And Kimberly, last but not least.
I love that. That was me. I would say take your emotions seriously, please. Can I make that a plea? If you suppress, ignore your emotions, they come out physically. You need to deal with that. So take your emotions seriously. And I think we cannot have a holistic approach to wellness unless we have a holistic approach to ourselves. So understanding that you're not, exactly as we said at the end, is you're not a brain and a body, you are a whole person, a whole organism. What happens in the brain happens in the body, what happens in the body happens in the brain. So you need to start conceiving of yourself as one uniform organism rather than a brain that does the telling and a body that just gets told. So,
Amazing. Okay.